Yo, 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 welcome to Crate 808, and today we have another very special episode for you. We were honoured to bring back on a previous guest to the podcast, a living GOAT MC. Pharoahe Monch gave us some time. So yes, this is a big one. We sat down, we talked about COVID-19, we talked about the BLM movement, we talked about where he's at right now, spiritually, mentally, just everything. Also, man, we got a bit of insight on his upcoming album. We talked about Desire, we talked about Same Shit, Different Toilet, his latest new single. We talked about a lot of things, man. We even talked about films. So, without further ado, let's get to it. Hope you enjoy this. If you do, go out there, tell your mom, tell your brother, tell your sister, tell your dad, tell everyone. Crate 808 is still doing its thing. And yes, here's Pharoahe, man. Let's go.
Hello.
Yo, is that Pharoahe?
Peace. How's it going, sir?
How are you doing, man?
I'm hanging in there. I'm pretty excited, man. Wrapping up this LP finally after like 25 years of working on it.
Whoa, Pharoahe, man, you're going to start the conversation off like that. Okay.
Oh no, you asked me how I was doing, so I'm really happy because I'm finishing up this project. Been working on it for a minute, but I don't want that to steer the conversation.
Nah, man. I mean, I'm ready to go wherever you want to go. I mean, this is the thing with this conversation today. I just thought of you, man, because things are kind of crazy right now. And it makes me think of a lot of your lyrics. I thought, do you know what? I want to check in and just see how you're doing. And of course, anything like that new music you want to talk about, I'm here for. But yeah, man, I mean, first of all, since we last talked to you, there's been a global pandemic. And a massive protest movement, a massive amount of just turbulence in the air, man. So yeah, just wanted to really ask the first thing, like, how are you doing mentally, spiritually, just generally all around? How are you?
I'm great, man. I've had to recalibrate my emotional and mental space, which I think is a challenge in itself. And, life is like that. Life is like, as soon as you make some plans, the definition of life is, don't get me to paraphrasing, but it just throws a monkey wrench into those said plans. And that's kind of how you have to roll with the punches. My first way I reconciled with all of this was, I'm pretty sure everybody had plans for the summer. And then the seriousness of it is, I have pre-existing health conditions with the asthma.
Mm.
So I was like, I have to be extra diligent and vigilant with how I move during this thing. So I've just been like staying home, working from home. Obviously, gyms are closed. That was a big part of my day. So I go for these long old man walks in the park. I really said to myself, if you're going to treat this like a sentence, so to speak, how about you come out on the other side of this? If there's an other side, spiritually and emotionally sound, why don't you turn up on your workouts and turn up on your diet instead of doing what everybody else is doing and become more efficient? And, I've never recorded vocals at home, but I got myself like a USB microphone and finished up a little thing. And I've been working on some projects for people and verses for people. And it's been really good in that sense of having to reflect and go inside, literally and figuratively, in terms of what the virus, the pandemic has done to us, and investigate kind of what's going on in there. And that takes me to how, in a microcosm, us as individuals having to go inside and check ourselves, kind of, because we have to social distance, kind of forces you to get right with yourself if it so happens that that's something that you want to do. And I think in America, when you're talking about kind of what's happening, I think because we've been forced to go inside all of our vices have been taken away that we would normally go to sports and shows and entertainment and clubs and restaurants. This kind of like mental situation on let's just go with mental health with America for a second. If I could try to make this analogy, I'm doing it on the fly.
For sure.
If you have committed these atrocities in your lifetime as a human, as an individual, and then you're forced to be in a room and live with yourself, I would imagine it's kind of difficult to do without acting out on your vices. I think in this moment, what has come to light with the country is a lot of the stuff that's happened here from the beginning. And I think what's happening is it's kind of forcing everybody to take a good look at the country and itself and its practices and its atrocities as pertaining to the treatment of Black people. And it's become clear to me that, when you're in control and you are the culprit of these atrocities, it's not always necessary that you have to atone. So we're getting a lot of pushback, which is disheartening in the sense that once again, like the movements like Black Lives Matter, it's just like so clear a plea, one of the lowest pleas of the cry of people to say, we don't hate this country per se. We want to function here. We've been functioning here, but we want to let you know that the vibration is nasty and it's ugly. And sometimes it feels like we don't even matter in the totality of this. So we would like to say that we would like to cry out and say to you that we believe that we should matter. We think we matter, and it would be nice if we mattered to you. And to get pushback from that, or to not have any empathy and trying to understand what the cry is about, is disheartening. It's hurtful. It's not that after all of these years I've been begging to be accepted here. I have my stance on that. It's just that mattering to matter seems like a simple request. And I see now that coming on into the election period, I think that just even the cry out by the Black Lives Matters movement is going to be met with an equal resistance. And that's pretty scary.
Yeah. If I could ask you, are you hopeful? Are you hopeful that if there's any motion that's been set through all of this turbulence, that something good will come from this? Something for everybody's lives to just be better? Is there hope there for you?
Well, I think in the likening of the great mind of Martin Luther King, who was only in his 30s when he was assassinated, had decided from all the pushback that his time was expiring. And he said that, this isn't about me. And I think that's what love and becoming evolving an evolved planet, evolved culture is about. What are we doing, environmentally for our children and for generations to come? And, when we talk about these movements, I don't even think that they're for us. It's, again, which was so brilliant about King, is like, it would be amazing to see an existence, at least in the place where on the documents, that's what it claims to be, a melting pot of cultures to form one union. At least here, it would be amazing to see all of those different flavors existing in a future setting where the ideology of race in that way is a thing of the past. When I was a kid and I thought about 2020, in my mind, forget about 2000. That's enough. But 2020, I was certain we would be, you know, hovering about on these hovercrafts and white
Yeah.
draped fucking garments discussing philosophies on how to rid
Yeah.
diseases. Like, this just seems so archaic a discussion at this point. Not in the sense that I don't understand why it exists. It's just like I had no idea we would still be like some guy would be on TV like, and they threw me out of the Starbucks. I was reading my book. Like,
Mm.
really? You know, like, it's just mind blowing to me.
It's a time of really looking at how your world is built, I feel. I think one thing that's come out of all of this is there's a, if not renewed, then definitely a new dialogue in my immediate circles. People who have
Mm-hmm.
never even questioned. They never even questioned either their whiteness or their identity or something which is as simple as, oh, what's wrong with society at the moment? There's people out there who don't really see or need to see that from their immediate day to day. And I realize that those normal people, either they're really championing or they're really against. As you said, there's an equal resistance to everything happening at the moment. In my immediate circle, I see that. But I do always come back and think, well, at least there's a conversation now. Because
Mm-hmm.
anything that happens in America, I realize in my immediate circles, unless you're into hip hop, it doesn't really affect you. It doesn't really, it's just the news
Mm-hmm.
and that's it. And I feel like now that when that happened over there and there's been these protests, it's really emanated here that people like me and my family and the different races in my family tree are all actually discussing this. And maybe not in a very like in a very well mannered way. There are people
Mm-hmm.
putting out Facebook posts with a Facebook meme that they take as true, and you realize, well, defund the police doesn't mean that. Do you know, or like, there's certain things that have got people hyped in the last few months. So I feel like there is a conversation. I'm wondering where you are right now. I mean, it's so immediate, everything that's happened to us. But do you see, like, the change that's happening right now? Do you see it as more symbolic at the moment? Or do you think there genuinely is a path to lay a new foundation for the next generation?
I think so. I think it's not a wide path, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's a path nonetheless. And what's happening with social media, I mean, is the ability to explain and to have conversation and communicate. You're not able to have any nuance
Mm,
or things, or you're kind of forced into thinking things are black and white, and most things are have more layers to them. And you're not able to have that level of discussion on a wide basis. Things like defund the police. I understand it, but I can understand why it can be misconstrued if presented to someone the wrong way. It's things like that cloud that help make the explanations and the path a little narrowed, because there isn't one voice that's extremely talented at being eloquent when having the discussion about this. With social media, you don't know who you're listening to, where the phrases are coming from. You have to fact check everything. If you care to fact check, it could be fucking Russian bots,
yeah,
China bots. I'm serious. Like,
yeah.
there was in 2016, there was so many things on Facebook, Black Lives Matters and different rallies, and people would show up to stuff and it would be no one there, and it wasn't even a real organization or something going on at the time, if I'm making sense. See a post, there's a moment where I stop and I'm like, let me take a moment to see what this is, when this happened. Is this from 10 years ago? Not that it matters. 15? Is it current? What country is this happening in? Like, it's just pretty it's a lot. It's a lot to ask someone who has been blinded or not even in this world to jump into the world of the totality of everything that's happening with systemic racism. If it's a phrase that you're hearing for the first time, I know people are like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I listen to a lot of sports radio, and this guy called in to the host, and the host let him rant. He's like, my grandfather didn't own any slaves. God damn it. My father didn't own any slaves. I'm a hardworking man. I work hard. What do you want my taxes for? I pay taxes. So the host, he finished, and the host was like, Harvey, are you finished? He was like, yeah, I'm finished. And the host was like, next caller. We're not going to discuss.
Sometimes that's the best way, man.
Yeah, the next caller came in, and the next caller was laughing, and it was just, it was sad because I wished that the host had the wherewithal to explain some of his discretions, which have nothing to do with what's happening, but I can see how you could be confused. I think in terms of like, there needs to be funding for these things has nothing to do with what he was saying, and everything to do with, if you take any society in any culture in any part of the planet where there's poverty, you're going to find Irish gangs, Italian gangs, and all the rest of it. Like, we've if you're a fan of Game of Thrones, you watch the girl of the king, the youngest girl, go from a princess to out in the streets stealing pigeons and bread for food. It's like, what do you do when you've been in the forest for a week and you're hungry and there's some bread? That's what happens. And so it's not saying that let's bring all of these people out of the forest and feed them. It's just like, what are we going to do here in this situation? Because this exists because of the neglect to pay attention to a problem. Education, housing. My parents came to Queens and they got a loan. They weren't allowed to buy based on the loan, and the banks wouldn't loan them a certain amount. Like, it was like, you can live here or you could live nowhere at all. Thus, in that district, there are these schools that you can go to. And, there lies a part of the issue that is hidden, and a lot of people don't realize. Okay, so now you have this section in Chicago and this section in New York where, it's a cycle of poverty. How do you ever break that cycle is the course, especially when a lot of people, a lot of corporations, which is the big thing in politics, that have benefited throughout the last 200 years, have benefited from the backs of things that were free and from low labor and so on and so forth. And it's a bigger discussion, than just, I pay my taxes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's too big a discussion to be dealt with. I feel social media is absolutely amazing. I would never have been inclined to do a different series of podcasts like this if it wasn't for all them videos and reports and verified fact-checking things that were on. But I think what I miss is like them days when someone like James Baldwin would be on TV. I can imagine, as you said, someone who's got a very eloquent manner, someone who fully, there is no manipulation. They believe what they are saying. At the moment, I feel like what I would love to have, because this dialogue is now kind of in the air, so people who not even thought that the police could just be a different entity. And I've got a lot of police in my immediate support network. A lot of them would love not to do what they've been told to do. And they'd like to maybe shift a little bit into different molds to help a community. And I just think, do you know what would be really great is if on all these platforms that we watch things, there was just a few people who were very eloquent and not reactionist, not reactionary to everything, and just kind of, I don't know, move the conversation forward. And I feel like sometimes that isn't getting moved forward, or it's moving incrementally. And you have people like all these podcasts that, Joe Rogan gets billions of people listening to him. And I don't know if you know of Sam Harris, but I've listened to a few Sam Harris things, especially after the protest, and him bringing up a lot of stats that have got people annoyed or angry about his viewpoint on what's happening right now. Even though I don't agree with him, I feel like if we have a dialogue, I can understand the guy who's on the sports chat show saying, what about
Right.
my taxes? I just feel like I need to understand that person. I don't need to agree with them, and I shouldn't have
Right.
to give my time.
Right.
But it almost feels like I have to, because how else would I make any argument that's probably going to work where everyone's on board?
Right. How I work in my friends in my circle and just in my life, I'm the guy who puts his feet in other people's shoes, even with myself, because it's no sense in having a debate with someone or a conversation with someone and they're agreeing with everything that you're saying. So I've become accustomed to, well, let me try to see all sides of this, even when trying to, work out a lyric or a song or whatever. Like it helps to, writing roles to check other people's perspectives. I say that to say, because of the dynamics of social media, sometimes you can't even step outside the popular opinion to ask, to bring balance to the understanding. A lot of times I do that for the person who may be listening to get a full picture of the discussion, not to console, because I think we're far beyond that. I think the country is so divided that it's damn near impossible. But I try to do that in situations where people are like, I'm just not privy to any of this. I think it's necessary. On the other side of the spectrum, because we have the guy in the White House that we do, the division, which has always been there, is just the focal point of this. So whatever side you're on, it's making you feel like you have to choose a side. I would go so far to say is being eloquent is like a slap in the face. Like, pick a side. That's it. There's no need to explain anything. I really think on the opposite end of the spectrum of the far right, there's no discussion to have. Again, going back to I'm forgetting what you were saying. My brother, my oldest brother, was a police officer, NYPD, passed away last year, and we would have these discussions, and they would be great discussions because obviously I would make a song, like clap and be like, I need you to hear this song, and I need to hear what you think. This is my perspective on it. I think there's going to be a tipping point. And, he'd be like, he's a big fan. This is amazing. Great song. One thing I learned from him, and a lot of cities, the ability for the officers to have discretion was taken away. You make a stop, you got to follow through. These are the rules. Your thing turns on. Your vehicle stopped. It's noted that this is happening, whatever. So, I would drive by in my neighborhood and see two cops with like a 78-year-old lady getting out of her car with a cane. And I'm like, at no point do you have the discretion to just get to the car and be like, oh, wow, this lady's 80 years old and she's still driving and she made the wrong turn here, but she is 80. Let's just see if everything checks out and let her be on her way in. Ma'am, you can't turn here anymore. And I'm like driving by and I'm like, why is this old lady in the back of and, he was explaining to me like, yeah, today's police officer really has the discretion to be like, hey, I see you drive by here all the time and you can't turn anymore. I'm just going to give you a warning and blah, 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 blah. Also, what I noticed years ago, and this is just becoming the topic, is, it's really difficult job to, during one part of the day, have to deal with, an armed robbery call, and then in the same day, deal with a mental illness call, domestic violence call, gang activity call. Like, you're constantly switching up your fervor and your mindset. And I always said from long ago, that there should be divisions for bank robbery. I know you need to patrol and It needs to be first people on the scene for a lot of these things. But once again, I've come upon situations where a man is in the center of the square in a diaper, and I'm like, you guys are yelling at him. Clearly, he's dealing with a mental health issue, and yelling commands at him is probably not the best way to get this guy
Yeah.
to go inside and put some clothes on. You know, you want to have at least one person on the scene. It's like, no, this is the tone you use. I'm 5 years into dealing with this. You know, this is the way you approach people like this. And you know, we just it's a difficult job to begin with. Then when you factor in the history, I don't think those things are taken into consideration. Also with the job, more or less, when you're choosing to take a position where you're putting your life on the line, it takes a certain individual to do that. In a lot of cases, those individuals, I don't think need to necessarily have a job, or they should be more on the armed robbery patrol rather than the domestic mental health patrol, because they are far too aggressive. If I'm making any sense in what I'm saying, and what I'm saying, I'm trying to say that the way that this job of policing is carried out is fucking archaic. Even on the side of policing, they need to advance, and it's a difficult job as it stands without the history of it coming from jobs given out to people to make sure the slaves didn't escape. You know, these are amongst the first jobs in this country in terms of who are we going to give these jobs to be the slave capturers and returners and purvey over and make sure the slaves are in line. You know, this is where this job really emerges from at the end of the day.
Yeah. You were saying there, if you'd made your point, that is a very, very good breakdown. That's how I feel that at least let's start thinking about how our world could be. People talk about climate change. No one's going to do anything until it's on your doorstep. It's like COVID-19. It's
Right.
on your doorstep. You have to act. But I do feel like now there are other types of ways now we should start thinking about just what kind of world you want to live in. I'm not a vegetarian. My food consumption is very, very, very general. But I do also think in my head that I was talking to one of my friends about this, that when you go to the supermarket, that every banana looking the same or every chicken breast looking the same in itself isn't natural. In a natural
Right.
world, all those would look very, very different.
Right.
We talked about this earlier on the pod in another episode, which was like, it is kind of funny that I have to pay more for something that's better for me. And the economy keeps, well, this is one of my other problems, which is why the economy sometimes is like the litmus test for how you're doing. And I feel like it's a bit odd because I can't remember where I heard this, but someone was like, well, the weird thing is we are the economy. The people who work are the economy. Therefore, you should make sure they last as long as possible or as healthy as possible. I just think sometimes times in history, you are afforded to think about things that could implement real change. And this seems like one of them times to me. I don't know how you feel about that, but yeah.
No, it's the most, it might go down in history as the most amazing time in the history of our planet. The whole globe had to quarantine to some degree. And the tragedies that's happened in the past here, people have been able to protest on Friday and Saturday. Like, you had jobs. Even if you were a heavy activist, you were like, let's meet at 6:30 here, and then, you know, we'll plan out Friday and Saturday's protest. This shit is like 24-hour protest for 2 months because people have time to do it. Like, even the negative side of the rioting, I'm like, a lot of these kids wouldn't even be able to be at this protest.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, parents would be like, you know, don't you have school tomorrow? Or why aren't you at your job or whatever? It's just an amazing moment in time in that way. that we're all kind of like focused on, like even the things you said, economy. Why are we focused on the economy like never before? Because governments are like, all right, if a couple of thousand 80-year-olds have to die, fuck them. We can't destroy the American economy over a disease that's only affecting old people. And I was like, oh, wow, what a Republican ass way of thinking about this. And even still, I was like, I understand what you're saying until again, what you just said, it's at your doorstep and it's your mom or your mother-in-law, aunt, or what have you. And then how do you feel? He was like, I'd say the same thing if it was 17-year-olds only, or I'd say the same thing as this. And I was like, this is what it takes to become a hard body capitalist, winning capitalist, that type of mind frame. And I get it, but it leaves for a cold and callous
Yeah.
reality outside of, billionaires.
Yes, you're rocking with the best. This is the one and only Just Blaze. Right now, you're checking out the Crate 808 podcast. Remember to hit up crate808.com, like, comment, subscribe, and all of that. Peace.
Like you're saying with the environment, maybe I swing a little, one-sided because I'm asthmatic. But then when this happens, and I swear to you, because of quarantine, there are no cars. There are less cars on the road. There's nowhere to go. Your job's closed. The building's closed. The gym's closed. Where you going to the pool? Closed. Businesses are shut down. You can work from home. Because of that, the smog in California evaporated, and people in Los Angeles said for the first time in 15, 20 years, they were like, I didn't even know there were mountains behind not my house.
Wow.
Same thing in New York. I'm like, oh man, I'm walking for 4 miles. I'm like doing shit that I've never done before. I'm seeing squirrels and birds. Birds are landing on my shoulder like a Disney movie, having a conversation. And I'm like, yo, what does it take for someone to say, this would be a better planet for my children's children if we cut back on some of these emissions? And what else could we do? Oh, they're saying that if we do this would be a better planet as well. Well, maybe that's a little too far. I love my fucking hamburger. But how could you just dismiss the whole thing as a Chinese hoax?
Wow, yeah. I've just seen so much stuff that I didn't even think people, it's when you first realize there's flat earthers. There's just been a lot of stuff has come out where, man, I'm just questioning everything right now. Like, it's almost like you said earlier about fact checking. It's like, wow, I need to really, just take a minute. And then you hear another piece of information, then you have to fact check that. And it's exhausting. It's just exhausting after a while. Yeah.
It is because what you realize after a while is that we've all been bamboozled in some way to play a part of this cog in the system. And that's fine. There are things that I love my sports and I love certain things. But at the end of the day, another thing this showed us that we will probably refuse in the new normal is that all you really need is your family, your loved one, some sustenance, and some love, maybe a little bit of scotch.
Yeah.
And everything's all good. Everything else that's been given to us or explained or taught to us or advertised to us is pretty fucking unnecessary and can be done without. And part of let's get this economy rolling again, part of that shit is we can't let these humans see too long or they might just step out of the matrix for good. So let's get back to the good old McDonald's and everything else that you were buying up with your money that you work so hard every week for.
It's so true, man. There's this moment where I realised, you talked about capitalism earlier and how callous you have to be to let capitalism work. And I think you can say exactly the same thing for Marxism, by the way. So if there's any people out there who hate Marxists, don't have a go at me. I'm not being like that. I'm just saying every system and every theory, to make it complete, you have to be callous, and it happens on either side. But what I was thinking, my spending habits changed when this all happened, because instead of just buying what I usually may just consume, I realized there was a lot of independent artists and MCs, producers, DJs, and not just that, but like actual like painters, artists, stuff like that I really, really like. And they were all struggling. And I ended up like once a month just like buying either a print or something just to kind of help. And I didn't want to be like holier than thou, but it genuinely was how I felt like I'm probably better spending my money that way. The MC Carr brought his album out, and I was like, I love that MC so much that I will pay $20. And I saw people moaning on Twitter about it, but I thought, man, he needs a hand right now. I don't know, maybe I'm old school in the way that I think hip hop kind of is. It's a community that you help one another, and be it in the mosh pit when Simon Says comes on and someone's on the floor, you help that guy, or it's buy my t-shirt because I have no tools at the moment. We had Ari the Rugged Man, and he's the same. He does not know where his next paycheck's coming from because he can't tour, and I'm sure you have similar things. But I did want to talk to you though, Pharaoh. Thank you for all this. I mean, I've learned a lot just talking to you right now, man. I really appreciate you coming with all this. But I just need to tell you, when something like this is happening in the world, be it 9/11, be it any tragedy that is this impactful, I do look to artists, I do look to the culture to kind of act and echo or have a say on it. So when I saw a track by yourself called Same Shit Different Toilet pop up on my Spotify, I'm not going to lie, I was just like, oh my God, thank you. Like, there is something just from the artwork and everything. I was very much into it. And I just wanted to ask you really, man, like, first of all, that song, it's so on point right now. I mean, you're not messing about. Your first line is burning crucifixes on your lawn. Was that kind of written before all this kicked off, or is that a reaction to actually what happened?
Yeah, no, I wrote that in 2018. I was at Marco Polo's. We were listening to some music for this current album that I'm about to put out, which, oh my God, man, this new album, man, is fucking insane. But anyway, I was listening to some music for that, and he played that beat, and I was like, yo, no, this is the perfect music bed for melody, and it's dark, so I start to sketch out the composition in terms of how about I sing something kind of sad and soulful that speaks to something that will probably be reoccurring. But then when I get to the verses, come at them really, really hard. And then when I came up with the chorus, I was like, oh, I know what I'll do. I will write about this same thing happening in the past, and then I'll ask Styles to write about what's happening right now, which is, the ideology behind the song is my verse is a story that my grandfather told my father, who told me. So at the end of the verse, I said, see this oak tree where I hang at? That's the same spot my great grand used to hang at. And so that was just the gist of it. And we wrote it in 2018, and it was just sitting in my computer. And then the situation with Ahmaud Arbery happened, and I was like, you know what? I was told a long time ago by a wise man who used to manage Talib Kweli. He's like, he said, I think it's a travesty that God gives you the ability to make these songs and you just keep them in your computer and no one hears them. He was like, I think it's a sin. I think it's not for you. I don't think you're given the ideas for them to stay in your computer. You're given the ideas so that you can try to bring them to fruition and then share them with people. And so all of those kind of speeches came back circling in my head, and I was like, I got to put this song out. So I put it out.
It's got that energy, man. That 2020 energy. Your work generally. I've been listening back to a few things. And generally, man, yeah, that it just hit home, man. Even fair play on the singing, man. It's so underrated. I was really enjoying the singing. I was like, wow, man. Pharoahe crooning. I'm here for kind of like an album of that. I think just you singing on tracks. A bit like on Love, man, with Dilla. That. Yeah, that track still. But when like there's something chaotic happens, that it bubbles up in art. Art kind of reacts to it, and I feel like this is one of them steps where it's just very reactionary to it, and it really, really helped. You touched on the fact that you said you have been working on this album. You sound like you're really like, I'm excited listening to you talk about it. Is there anything new we can hear about this upcoming album?
Well, it's a very hip hop and rock infused record. For years I've been wanting to make something like this, and I finally found the guys working with a guitarist named Marcus Machado and a drummer named Daryl Jones, and it's not even a Pharoahe album per se. The name of the project is called 13. It's to show people that this is a collaborative effort to get this sound for the people. And I'm a huge Led Zeppelin fan. I'm a huge Black Sabbath fan. And within the playing of John Bottom and a lot of those grooves, I would hear stuff that I could rhyme over when I was younger. And, I just fell in love with Zeppelin for years and years and years. And, watched the documentaries. Why is it so good? Why are they this good? Like, I would ask myself, damn. Like, why do you like them so much? What is it about it? And I think it was a lot of the groove and the drum pattern, as well as the musicality and the song structure and the writing and just Page and Plant. And so I always thought a lot of that shit was like really hard and right up my alley. Like Immigrant Song is just so Marvel comic fucking driving through the open lands on a fucking horse or car or whatever. And I can picture these songs. It's part of the reason that I tried to write in a visual way as well, because a lot of rock and jazz, it's just like a lot of music, and you're like, okay, what's the story here? What's going on here? So this album is a culmination of all of those things that I love about hip hop. Someone said about one of the songs, it sounds like the child of Led Zeppelin and Mobb Deep.
Oh my God, that has ticked so many boxes for me. That's amazing. Yeah. Wow.
So we spent a lot of time knowing that over the years, when people have said things like this, it's kind of come up short for me. Like that the playing has been a little too loose. So I'm like, this is just all over the place. And this is not hip hop enough for me. It's not grimy enough for me. So the time was spent making sure that the hip hop heads would be like, woo! And also the rock heads would take us seriously.
Okay. My favorite Zeppelin is Tangerine. I don't know why, but it feels like because Zeppelin have their sound, but the way they just pivoted and just completely switched it for Tangerine, man, there's something about that track that just, still resonates with me, man. So I'm looking forward to this. This sounds amazing. When you're talking about the rock influence, I'm guessing you guys are going to try to tour it as a band then, maybe? Or
it's definitely a band. Let me be clear. 13 is a band. 13 is Marcus Machado, Daryl Jones, and Pharoahe Monch. We're a three-piece. Obviously, because we're a three-piece, it's going to be triggers and shit that we're going to have to do because we got all types of shit going on in these songs. But it's the hardest record that I've done in terms of like ominous hip-hop, and it's the realest record that I've done. And I think it's not necessarily a concept record in story form like PTSD or some of my other projects, but it is like the overall gist of the album formulates something that's, at the time my manager was like, you can't make a song that would make me say, I don't know if you could put this out and say that. I don't know if you can say that. So going into making this album, that was my motivation.
Okay. That is a great start. What a great launching pad. Oh, man. I'm hyped for it, man. I'm hyped for it. I'm just thinking about your live band like experience. Musically, man, just your music has been always really, really good. I was just vibing to Push the other day, and I was just thinking about the horns on that, and I was like, wow, man, the band on this, I could just, like sometimes with certain groups like Outkast especially, you can just vibe to a track.
Mm-hmm.
There's Desire generally, that album, big up by the way. I mean, I know it was is it 13 years anniversary came up the other day, and yeah, man, big up on that, because that comes up on my shuffle. You listen back and you think there's a lot of 2020 energy on that as well, man. But also just the band, just the musicality of it.
Yeah, because you start to realize after a while, like if you want to evoke certain emotions, sometimes just samples could be flat. Sometimes samples could evoke that emotion in a loop or a chop. But then other times it's just like if you want to write a hopeful song, the chord, there's a psychology to the chord progression and what key things should be in terms of things sounding hopeful. And because of the name of the album was Desire, I knew immediately that I could get hopeful harmonics from singers. So there's Showtime and Mila Machinko is on that album a lot, because I knew through vocals I could get inspiration. That's the basis of inspirational music. That's what you kind of hear me go for on Desire. And it's so weird because, that album followed up Internal Affairs and Simon Says, and when it dropped, you're talking about contingency of fans that were like, huh? Like, what's up with the singing and the music and the instruments?
Yeah.
What are these instruments? I'm like, they're instruments, motherfucker. And so I was having a conversation with Nas. We were on tour. We were in Prague for Rock the Bells overseas, and De La was there, Nas was there. We were in the elevator together, and I was like, yo, man, drop the new shit. And, people are loving it, but I'm seeing online, it was my first time being on social media around that time, 2007. And I'm like, yo, man. And Nas said, these things are like, I don't want to liken them to children, but they're kind of like that. They all kind of have a life of their own. And he said to me, as time goes on, check back with that and you'll see what I'm talking about. And so with that release, we were flown out by the Universal side of in the UK. And Push was really big on BBC. It was on Radio 1. They added the song. We did the interview with all the big wigs over there. We played live versions of the songs. They shot a video for the song Desire. They funded that. And we toured with Rage Against the Machine, who was doing the, not with them, but, it was the Rock the Bells tour the year that they headlined. And I just garnered a whole new audience of fans from that specific album that didn't know anything about me, probably except for Simon Says. And when I go online now and I put up the 4 albums, Desire is like number 1 or close to number 1.
Damn.
I say to artists, upcoming artists, or even my peers, I'm just like, for me, I had to branch out, or I never would have, I'd be one of those guys chasing after Simon Says, and who wants to fucking be that dude,
It's growth, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about Zeppelin. All these artists grow. Robert Plant's latest albums still sell loads because it's Robert fucking Plant. And as in, like, you can't expect, you have what you have. No one can touch Simon Says. It's top 10 for me, top 10 all time. There's a purity to it. Do I want you now to just make Simon Says? If you ask me as a 20-year-old or whenever it was when it came out, yeah, of course, I bet, yeah, or I want 100 of these. But as I've grown, you've grown, and I feel like the music has reflected that. So everything my favorite artists kind of drop, even this year, RTJ, that's LP, man. He comes from the same time as you. And it's
crazy.
like, yeah. And I'm like, I'm here for that growth. I'm here because it helps me grow now. And I know that sounds very emotional and mushy, whatever, but that's just how much I invest in my music. And some people do, some people don't. And that's it. But it's a strange thing when you started social media, you're seeing that because some things don't change, man. Some things, an album comes out and 2 days later it's a classic. And sometimes it gets absolutely washed and you're like, that album's not that bad. And you listen back in a year's time, you're like, that album's really good. I'm glad that you seem like you've got quite a reasoned head on your shoulders when it comes to social media and stuff like that. So, because I don't want you getting gutted if some idiot says it's rubbish. Do you know what I mean? When it clearly isn't.
Right. No. It was a good reaction, but I've seen people being like, yo, this guy put actual instruments on here. I'm like,
yeah, I know.
That's
Amazing.
what we're sampling. You know, that's what we're sampling, right? Those are instruments.
Oh, it's funny, isn't it? It's so funny. Have you been listening to much music, or have you just been making it? What in this lockdown? Have you?
I've just been in the lab, really like focused on this, and not even on just write some rhymes. It's like executive production, arrangement. You know, it's bridges and progressions, and then I'm working on the visuals right now. I got a cat from the UK animating one of the songs. That shit's coming out crazy. I'm just so, and this is why I'm excited, is because like I can't even explain to you how challenging it is to find the right people who get it. And like at the end of the day, if you work with people who get it and you could put it out and you're confident, you're like, this is my vision. Even if I get laughed off the face of the planet, I'm comfortable with that now, because the guy who's doing this shit is like, yeah. So we'll just all be crazy at the end of the day, but at least they get it, you know?
Yeah, man. Right now, you know, you're talking about people that you work with that get it and stuff like that. Right now, I'm looking at I bought a print from the artist Chris Murray, who did like your Harry Carey Samurai print. God damn, man. Yeah. That guy kind of got it. Was like, he's dope. We got to work together. We were talking on Instagram with each other the other day, and he's like, yo, people are going nuts over this piece. We got to do something. And I was like, yeah. And I was telling him about this project. Is all about art, visuals. Like, I want to go 12 months of art and visuals. Like, I'm trying to get 5 visuals done for this album. Wow.
And it's just the photography and all that shit, you know, because I went to art school. I just want to keep feeding people stuff from this project because I love it. And I think it helps when you could look at an artist and you could tell that they are excited or they love it. Even if you're like, yeah, it's cool. It helps you when they get on stage and they're like, you're ready to rock it out. You're like, okay, this guy really like loves what he does.
Yeah, man, it carries for sure. Well, Pharoahe, man, thank you for your time. I mean, there's actually, before I do move on though, there's one thing I wanted to ask you, because you said you're there from art school and stuff. It just sprang an idea in my mind, because I was like, a few months ago, you were putting up on social media, on Twitter, I think, about your favorite films, or like you've got a film club or something, that you were saying that you'd ticked off a few films because you're a cinephile, obviously. I was wondering if there's any that you could recommend.
Well, I'm all over the place, so it's kind of hard to do. And like, we were laughing on Twitter because some of those movies are pretty weird. Like, my friends like kind of tricked me into watching these like these kind of weird ass B movies, but I found them interesting anyway. So when I recommended them, 2 of my married friends, they hit me back like, yo, man, my wife was like, what the hell are we watching right now?
Oh,
so
brilliant.
I'm not sure what to recommend, but there's this movie, The Witch, which is this young girl. It's Korean. It's subtitled, but I loved it because it's kind of like martial arts, Wolverine type of vibe.
Okay.
And that's my favorite movie of the pandemic. And then, the one that won the Oscar,
Oh, Parasite.
Parasite, I enjoyed that. And then
You talk about visuals. That guy's eyes, when the stairs are there, you can just see the top of his head with the eyes. Oh man, that's a visual right there.
Yeah, he's nice. He's really nice. He's dope. That's what see that I see stuff like that, and then so I'm watching with that type of eye.
Wicked.
So as I'm looking at this list, a lot of these were like art house fucking weirdo shits.
Let's go.
Lighthouse. You see Lighthouse?
The seagull didn't deserve that. Spoiler alert. But the seagull did not deserve that. It did nothing wrong.
Exactly.
Good film, though. Good film.
Killing of a Sacred Deer.
Yeah, I think I've seen that one. Oh, yeah. Is it Colin Farrell, or am I getting that one wrong?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and the little boy who's torturing the family and shit.
Oh, and the spaghetti. Yes.
Yeah, the spaghetti, yeah.
That is, wow, Pharoahe. Yeah, man. I can't, see, that's one I can't watch with my missus. I can't sit down and watch that one with her.
Exactly. Did you watch Uncut Gems?
Yeah, man.
It was cool. I liked him in it. It wasn't my favorite, but I liked him in it.
What do you think to KG?
Yeah, he was a basketball guy. he acted like a basketball guy.
That's funny though, man.
The Square was good. I'd recommend The Square.
I love that film.
Time Crimes.
No, what is that?
Watch Time Crimes.
What is that?
That's pretty entertaining.
Is it one of them B movies? Can I watch it with the missus?
Oh, definitely. It's not a boy meets girl love story, happy ending type shit. It's like, how would I classify this? It's like sci-fi.
Okay.
It's some time travel shit.
Nice, man. Well, yes. Thank you. Pharoahe delivered there. Jesus, I didn't think we'd go down that little rabbit hole, but I'm glad we did. Well, Pharoahe, man, thank you for your time as always. I really, really appreciate this. All the listeners appreciate this. The last episode we did, people loved it. It's one of the favorites. So I'm sure this one will be as well.
Dope.
Please stay safe out there. Take care of yourself. We love you, man. And yeah, man, looking forward to this album now when it comes. 13. Let's go, man.
All right. Thank you, man.
Thank you. You take it easy,
All
man.
right.
Peace out.
All right.
Hey guys, this is Jerobi from A Tribe Called Quest, and you're listening to the Crate 808 podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Remember, crate808.com. Go check it out. Peace.
Well, there you go. Crate 808, Pharoahe Monch. Yes, just mad that one of my favourite MCs comes on and is just bringing a lot of gems. There was just a lot of stuff I learnt out there. And hopefully you guys enjoyed it as well. Just so you guys do know, we understand there's been a lot of interviews coming out of Crate 808 at the moment. There will be some more debates coming. We have some big plans about the albums of the 90s. So all you heads out there who are ready for some more 90s chat, it is coming. Stay tuned. And one other thing I did want to say, apart from just share the love and tell everyone about this podcast, we would love some more correspondence, man. We put out a call for people to give out their least hip-hop things of the last 24 hours, of their most slept-on Wu-Tang bangers. And you know what? We got some really, really good stuff. So yes, we will be putting that in the next few episodes. But for now, I just want to say, email us, man, crate808@gmail.com. Tell us what you're listening to, what you think we should review, your least hip-hop things, slept-on Wu-Tang bangers. What artist from outside the 90s would have ruled the 90s? That's another one I was thinking about the other day. If Kendrick had come out in 1995, would he have been the biggest MC? Either way, all these are the conundrums of what a quarantined 1990s hip-hop geek goes through. So yes, hope you enjoyed it. Big up Pharoahe Monch. Go listen to his stuff right now. And yeah, we will catch you on the flip side. Brap, brap.